Welcome back to Exit 99 Sports, and as always, my name's Caleb Deloach, and the first big news of the week, Cody's back with us after some time at Disney and some time down with illness. Cody, welcome back.
It
was a good week of local high school sports. Cody and I didn't have a very busy week. We do radio for Jackson. We just had one game on Friday night, so not a lot of traveling around for us, but it was a good opportunity to watch a lot of other good games kind of going on in this area, Cody. And, we talked about it already. You're already looking at district tournaments kind of coming out for smaller schools, and we're winding down here. We're at the very end of the season.
Yeah, you see a lot of the small school Class 1, 2, 3 championships for districts are played by the end of February. So you're going to have district champions crowned here this month. So we only have, as you talked about, next week being those district tournaments. So this kind of the last week of the regular season for the small schools. The bigger schools only have 2 more weeks left in the regular season, and then we get into district play the first week of March.
Yeah, so we can just jump right into this past week's games. We'll start here in the Cape Jackson area on Tuesday. Cape Central kind of bounced back and had a big win over New Madrid County Central. That was 59-35. And, kind of the news, I guess, for Cape Central is it doesn't seem like Tyshandra Edwards is going to be back this season. We don't know for sure, but that is going to definitely, regardless, we have hindsight of knowing how the rest of their games go this week, but that's definitely going to hurt them as the season goes on into district time.
Right. Well, it's going to be a tough task anyway. You know that Sikeston, Farmington are in that district, but without Edwards, definitely one of the better players in the area. That's a tall task. Yeah,
but in that game against New Madrid, Cape played well. It was not a pretty game, I guess, but they played really well defensively, and a lot of the defense led to offense, and they won by 24. They controlled the game throughout most of it. It was a slow start. New Madrid kind of jumped out a little bit early, but then Cape just kind of pulled away and tore them down throughout the game. Mateo Rivers, who is a guy that's going to have to step up, they're going to have to find pieces around that's not named Tyshandra Edwards to step up here down the stretch. Marquez Mills, he made 3 threes in the game, and that was a guy who, when they played Principia down at Charleston, was unavailable due to injury, and so I'm expecting Rivers and Mills and then Goliath Morris Young, who plays well, their next game later in the week, to kind of be those guys that step up for him. Yep. And then we can say also in Cape Girardeau on this past Tuesday, Notre Dame knocked off Hillsborough. It was a solid team. Hillsborough is in, I believe they are in the same district as Notre Dame. Or not, but I think they're Class 5 District 1. Yep. They're in Class 5 District 1. And yeah, they're a solid team. I think they compare to Notre Dame pretty much across the board talent-wise. They have a big kid inside that's really good. Notre Dame came away the victors in that one. Colton Johnson played really well. He's been playing really, really well the last few weeks. He's been knocking down a lot of shots. I remember a couple weeks ago against Malden, he had 10 threes in a game. Brett Dohan's been playing well. He recently went over the 1,000-point mark for his career. And they came away with a 65-56 victory in that one. Solid ball game. They played well. It was a close game pretty much from start to finish. Notre Dame made plays down the stretch and came away with the win. And then a guy I've talked about a few times who feels like he's really stepped up into being that third option behind Dohan and Johnson is Brody Harden. He had 10 points in the ball game. And I think that's going to be, the key for them, Cody. They're in a spot in once district comes around to where they can be competitive and they could potentially win their district, even though, they've been floating around 500 most of the year. That if they do get guys to step up around Johnson and Dohan, there's no reason they can't make a run.
Yeah, we talked about it. Dexter, Donovan, Fredericktown, all teams with about the same record. Kind of just flip a coin for seeding there, but Notre Dame definitely has a good chance of coming out of Class 4 District 1.
Yeah, they're in a good spot. Like I said, they're playing well. The offense is kind of clicking. Dohan and Johnson are playing really well inside out. So, yeah, we can look at that closer here in a little while. But I think they're definitely in a good spot closing out the season. The other Cape Jackson team, Saxony, went on the road, lost by 2 to Jefferson. I saw how that game ended online. It was brutal. Jefferson hit a 3 like at the very end of the ball game to give them the lead. Tough break for Saxony. Tough season continuing over there in Fruitland for the Crusaders. There were some other really good games going on in the area. A lot of really good small school games this past week on Tuesday. Just quickly looking through those. A team that Notre Dame might be seeing in districts, Dexter, they beat Bell City, who's been having a good year, by 30. Then down in the Boot Heel Conference, Campbell East Prairie beat Campbell. East Prairie looks really good right now. They've been blowing people out. South Pemiscot blew out Richland, who some local teams might see in Class 1. And then Hayti beat Bernie by double digits. And Bloomfield beat Oran by 3. So things that kind of factor into some of these smaller district games. And then Saxony was back at home Thursday. They played Chaffee in a very ugly, low-scoring game. It was 44-27. Chaffee won that one over Saxony. Busy week for the Crusaders, because then they bounced back and played Friday, and they actually got away with a victory. They went on the road to Oak Ridge, came away with a big road win there, won 62-40, try and close out their season on a little bit more of a positive note. And on Friday, Cody, you can go ahead and I'll let you talk about our game we did. Jackson beat New Madrid 62-39.
Yeah, what was not very close from the start. Kind of Jackson jumps out 7-0 out of the gate, and then New Madrid makes a little run there, gets it back to 3 to 5 point game, and then Jackson goes on for a relatively easy win. You don't see those very much in the conference, but New Madrid a down year. We mentioned back-to-back state championships, but lost really the top 3 players, and a down year for them. But young, so they'll be up and coming here in the next couple of years. But Jackson's still just the one conference loss. You mentioned Cole Deck continues his hot shooting, 27 points in that game, so he continues to stay hot for the Indians.
Yeah, he played really well. He had 17 at halftime. He did a lot of it getting to the rim. I have the scorebook here in front of me. I mean, he made 1 3 in the ball game, came out in the third quarter, scored 8 points. Yeah, he was a big driving force offensively for the Indians. Obviously, he had almost half their points in the game. Besides him, it was pretty even scoring. Jory Toma had 10. Lee Ivy had 6, and it was just a bunch of other guys with 2, 3, 4 points. So, yeah, Cole Deck, he's been on a crazy, crazy run here of late. He had 78 points in 2 games last week, both going to overtime. He's been playing really well. He's been doing it all offensively for the Indians and doing it at all 3 levels. That's something we talk about a lot with him is last season, he averaged 20 points a game, but a lot of it was, him running off screens on the 3-point line. And Cody, I feel like it's been predominantly him getting, to the paint, getting into the mid-range this season.
Yeah, can do it with defenders draped all over him. Plays well when we mentioned the other team kind of tries to get up on him and be more aggressive. So likes the challenge, you would say.
Yeah, he's been playing well. And Jackson, I mean, they're in a good spot right now. They just won their 19th game. Something you and I talked about on air and something we talked about on the car ride back. This is a little bit of a surprising number of wins Jackson's sitting at right now. They're closing in. They have 3 games left in the regular season, and there's a chance to get to 21 wins is really impressive for a team that lost so much.
Yeah, Jackson fans have high standards. Anything less than a district championship a lot of times is considered a down year, but they are having a really good regular season in a tough district this year. A close game at Webster Grove's game, the number 2 team in Class 5. So they've, I think, kind of proven these last couple of weeks that they're willing and able to play with anyone and up for the challenge.
Yeah, they look really good. Like you said, it was pretty much open and shut. Jackson led wire to wire. So good win for Jackson there. A game they should win, and they didn't. They took care of business and actually kind of laid it on a team that they were blowing out. Also Friday, it was a pretty busy slate. Like I said, Saxony won. Notre Dame went to Poplar Bluff. Poplar Bluff's been dealing with a lot of injury, and so it wasn't a surprise to see Notre Dame blew them out 65-54. to 44. Good road win. Notre Dame's playing well right now. They're kind of hitting their stride here, heading into the end of the season. So they're definitely on the up and up since having, it was a couple weeks ago. They had a really rough week. They got blown out by Jackson. They got blown out in Nixa. They played 2 close games after that at Nixa and lost them close. So since that 4-loss week, they've really bounced back and have played really, really well. And then the big one, for sole possession of first place in the SEMO Conference, finally a team is in, by themselves atop. Sikeston hosted Cape Central, won that game 63-44. So you see the final score. It's a 19-point game. Looks like a blowout. But what's kind of crazy about that game is it was close, like the entire time up until the fourth quarter. It was back and forth, and it was a game that, Cape Central kind of played on their terms through most of it, keeping it pretty low scoring. But Sikeston kind of, they do what they do. They play well at home. It was ugly for 3 quarters, but then they just, put their foot on the gas and blew them out in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, what a lot of teams are going to have to do against Sikeston, kind of try to keep the game close, kind of muck it up, not let them turn it into a track meet, if you will. Expect Jackson to kind of do the same thing this week, try to keep the game close, lower scoring, kind of a defensive-minded game. But without Edwards, mentioned a little bit, surprising that it's a 4-point game after 3, and we look ahead to that maybe being a district game here over the next couple of weeks. So expect Sikeston to try to get better. I know it's a little bit of disappointing for Cape Central to be that close, and then it ends up being a 19-point game. Yeah. You hear that out of their coach, but expect them to come out fired up for the next meeting also.
Yeah, and like I said, Cape Central was down by 4 going into the third quarter. Cape Central had 42 points at the end of the third quarter and finished with 44. So just a masterclass by Sikeston closing out that game. They were led by PJ Farmer. He had 24. He's been playing really well. Sikeston as a team has been playing really well. If you're looking, like you said, into that Class 5, District 1, Sikeston, I don't know, behind closed doors what goes on. Marquell Murray no longer part of the team, but they have been playing very, very well. They have been blowing people out. Obviously teams that they should beat, you would think. But since they lost to St. Francis Borgia in the Union tournament, they have been crushing people. The Cape game was the closest game they've played in that time. They beat Dexter by 30. They beat Poplar Bluff by 30. They beat Charleston by 40. And then they beat Cape by 19. So Sikeston's looking very dangerous right now. They have positioned themselves into a really good spot here to close out the season. And we mentioned, kind of guys stepping up for Cape Central, and it was Goliath Morris Young in that ball game. He played well early, especially. He did really good around the rim. Sikeston's got a 7-footer, Trey Sadler. Let's go into SEMO. But Cape Central did a good job getting second-chance points and scoring around the rim. Just too many turnovers, what I watched that ball game. And that's what Sikeston wants to do. They want to turn you over. They want to make you play uncomfortable pace. And that was just kind of what did Cape Central in, just kind of compounding problems, turning the ball over a little bit too much, and unable to close it out with a shorter bench and obviously losing a guy that averages 20 points a game. Could have been a different ball game, but with no Tyshandra Edwards, things are going to be tough when you match up against a Sikeston. And then, it pretty much does it as far as the Cape Jackson teams go in the area for this past week. You can kind of look around some of the smaller school things that are going on. Delta, just down the road, they beat Richland, and that's a potential district game. They beat Richland by 4 the other day at Delta. And Ryan Jeffries, a guy we saw in the Christmas tournament, he scored his 1,000th career point as only a junior, so congrats to him. Down in the Tri-County Championship, Risco beat Southland by 8. They only had, I think, 5 guys because of a little scuffle that occurred the game before. In the Ozark Foothills Conference, Puxico blew out everybody. They won by 40 in the championship game there over Twin Rivers, doing what they need to do. And then, we can talk other SEMO Conference game. Dexter beat Kennett in double overtime. So that's definitely a notable Class 4 game that kind of will dictate the seeding there. And then one that's, not Cape Jackson, but definitely caught, I think, both of our eye was Charleston beat Woodland 82-69 in a game that might have been a little bit of a surprise. Some people, like I said, Charleston started out the year kind of slow, but they've really been playing well as of late, and they get a pretty big win over a Woodland team that also is having a really good season.
Yeah, I think Charleston will step up and surprise some people in Class 2, what appears to be a collision course for the district championship there with Puxico, but should be a very good Class 2. And then whenever you look at Class 3, obviously Woodland and Scott City, we've kept our eyes on those two possible district championship meeting there. So, yeah, a little surprising that Charleston has made leaps and bounds this last month, you would say, going to overtime with Jackson and then double-digit victory over the Cardinals of Woodland.
Yeah, so they're playing well. Definitely a team to keep our eye on heading into district. So that pretty much does it for the boys' side. Over on the girls' side this past week, there was a game that I was really looking forward to here in Cape Girardeau that didn't end up happening. But the big game, I would say, of the week was Jackson hosting Principia. Coming into the ball game, Principia was the number one team in Class 3. I think they were 18-3 coming into the game. Jackson, top 10 team in Class 6 as well. They've been playing very well. And so Principia came down. It was an early ball game. I think it tipped off at like 4:30. And Jackson came away with the win, 45-35. Yeah, ugly ball game, 45-35. It was a defensive battle, we'll say. Both teams, that's what both teams do. They both want to get after you. They both want to force turnovers, get easy buckets in transition. And so it was tough sledding both teams offensively. The Indians were led, as they have been most of the season, by the backcourt duo of Kate Deck and Cameron Alsdorf. Deck and Alsdorf both had 14. They both hit timely shots down the stretch. It was a close ball game all the way through, and Jackson did a good job closing it out. They struggled from the free throw line. They missed double-digit free throws, which is surprising because a week earlier they played at Donovan, who's a very good team, and they shot 100%, if I remember correctly, in the second half from the free throw line at Donovan. They found ways to win, even though they were missing shots they usually make, even though they're missing free throws. They played really well. Lily Watkins played a great game. Her and Addison Henderson played a really good game defensively. Watkins finished with 8. Henderson finished with 7 on the scoreboard, but they make a big difference defensively. And Henderson did a good job, along with Lauren Dory inside, taking away Principia's best player, Deja Scott. Big player, over 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", strong, very, very talented, averages over 20 points a game. And she got in foul trouble, was kind of the big hindrance there for her. But she finished with 3 points, so they did a great job on her. She's an all-state caliber player, and them holding her to only 3 points was humongous. And Principia, they had shots that I don't know if they usually hit. They were bricking a million threes, it felt like, but Jackson came out, they found ways to win. It was not pretty, but they got a win. And then there was a busy day on that Monday. Notre Dame went to Dexter, and a little bit of a surprising outcome for me. Dexter knocked them off by 5. So a big win for Dexter. Tough loss for Notre Dame as they kind of head into the back end of this season. Cape Central, who had a really good week, they started off by beating Kennett on Monday. I talked about that game a little bit because Kennett has a girl named Elise Edwards. If you're not familiar, is one of the most fun players in Southeast Missouri to watch, boy or girl. And she averages 30-plus points a game. They were able to come away with the win, though, at home, 55-50, so that was a big one. And Saxony dropped one to Portageville. I said that would be a tough game. Portageville is probably the best team in the Boot Heel, and Portageville won that one by 20 over at Saxony. And then something, a team that I'm keeping an eye on is Delta, a little bit down the road. Delta's girls, no reason to not keep paying attention to them. They're playing really well. They blew out Chaffee, who beat them early in the season and blew them out this game, 73-48. So Delta's balling out right now. Tuesday, Cape Central lost one at Poplar Bluff. Kind of got blown out by Poplar Bluff. Poplar Bluff's kind of positioned themselves as maybe the second, maybe third best team in the CMO Conference on the girls' side. And then Delta, who I just mentioned, came back out, played Portageville, who blew out Saxony, and they blew out Portageville, 68-45. So they're really having a heck of a stretch this week. And then Notre Dame got a win on Wednesday They hosted New Madrid. New Madrid maybe down a little bit this year. Notre Dame beat them 58-33. They do what they've been doing. They've been beating people up inside. And they played well there. And I don't know what the circumstances were as far as illness goes. But their game Thursday against Jackson, they were going to host Jackson on Thursday. I was excited to kind of see that game. Big rivalry, Jackson, Notre Dame. Teams they play each other a couple times a year usually. Notre Dame has had the upper hand over Jackson the last several years. But Jackson blew them out in the SEMO Conference tournament at Notre Dame to start the season. So I was curious to see how those two teams would match up. But yeah, that game got postponed due to illness over on the Notre Dame side. It got moved to the end of the year. So we'll see how that shakes out with weather and stuff coming up. So that game's going to be rescheduled for March 3rd. So we'll see what happens there. Saxony lost one at Kennett. Long drive. I said that'd be a tough game for them going down there to Kennett. They lost to Kennett, and then Cape Central, a second big win of the week. They beat Dexter at home 63-60. And like I said, it was a game I was surprised. I thought it could be competitive. I like Dexter to win that, just based on the way they've been playing. They have some really talented girls, the Nichols girl, the Minley girl, really good inside. But yeah, Cape came out, played really, really well. Abby Davenport, Allie Cairns played well. They had 12 each. And then Jamie Dawson-Ide, who's a good shooter, and she had 22 points to lead them to victory there. So good week for Cape Central heading into the end of the year, and they host their district. They're not going to be favored to win, but hosting, they could maybe pull off a few upsets here, position themselves to close out the season well. And then that pretty much does it for this past week. Cody, anything else really stick out to you about this last
that pretty much sums it up.
Week of ball? And then so we'll go to what to look forward to this week. I'll stay with the girls. Monday, probably today if you're watching this when this comes out. Another, I guess you could say, Jackson meeting of teams. Jackson will go to Saxony, play the Crusaders. I do have to feel like Jackson is positioned to probably win that game. Saxony has a lot of young girls. Indians are going to really try to speed them up, turn them over. I feel like that's a good opportunity for the Indians to win. Jackson has a very busy week. Cody, how many games and what? Just kind of jumping ahead, maybe in the future a little bit. What's their schedule look like to close out the season?
Yeah, so over the next week, Monday to Monday, 4 games for the Lady Indians. They're at Saxony and then at New Madrid, at Corhesu, and then Monday the 24th would be home again against Dexter. They play Dexter Monday, then Sikeston Wednesday, Hazelwood West Friday. So 7 games over really the next 2 weeks for Jackson to close out the season.
Yeah, busy time for those girls. And I don't know. They're playing above expectation for me. I knew this class of girls that were coming up to the varsity as freshmen, I knew that they were really talented. I'd seen a lot of them play over the years, playing travel and stuff, and over the team leagues over at the Sportsplex. I'd seen them. I knew that they were talented, but they have just been blowing me away this season with how they're playing. They're 17-1 now, and they have been incredible. And the run that they've been on, they have a tough close to the season, but you just go back and look at what they've done since Christmas break, just state ranked teams. They played Park Hill Central, who's coming off of the state title game in Class 4, beat them. MICDS was top 5 in Class 4. Francis Howell was a top 10 team in Class 6. Doniphan's one of the best teams in Class 4. Principia is the best team in Class 3. All these state-ranked wins, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 state-ranked wins out of their last 7 games. An incredible run, and they just keep winning. They just keep finding ways to win. So I'm really impressed with where they're sitting at right now.
Yeah, you really hate to jump ahead over their next couple of games, but Saturday at Corhesu, that's probably the second best team in their district. Yeah. Looking ahead, they could play for the district championship again here in a couple of weeks. So definitely keep our eyes on that game.
Yeah, that'll be a very big game up at Corhesu. And then can you check that? I think their district tournament is going to be at Corhesu. I'm pretty confident. But yeah, so this week they have Saxony on Monday, Thursday, they're going to be at New Madrid, which is another winnable game for the Indians. New Madrid, like I said, kind of down, losing some games big to other teams. I expect Jackson to kind of take care of business there. And yeah, at Jorge Zoo, presumably for the 1 seed in districts, Saturday will be a big-time matchup. That game listed at noon start time, so very early start time if you are trying to get up to St. Louis to watch that one.
Yeah, Lindbergh, I remember, actually hosts their district.
Lindbergh, okay. So we'll be in St. Louis up at Lindbergh. That's right. And other girls' games this week of note, Cape will be hosting Woodland Monday. It'll be an interesting game. Woodland is a pretty good, non-SEMO conference small school amongst the girls.
Yeah, they'll probably be the 2 seed in their district. Arcadia Valley, pretty good in their district. But yeah, Woodland probably the 2 seed when their district comes out.
Notre Dame will have another busy week themselves. They also actually will be playing at Jorge Zoo Friday, the night before Jackson. So maybe Jackson will catch Jorge Zoo a little tired on Saturday early. We'll see how that plays in. Notre Dame, though, they play Tuesday at Farmington. Then Wednesday, they host St. Pius X out of Festus, another private school, before going on the road Friday up to Jorge Zoo. What else do we have? Cape is going to go to Sikeston on Wednesday. Saxony will be at North County on Thursday. More winnable games. I'll be curious to see how Cape plays at Sikeston after, beating Dexter and kind of a surprise. Sikeston's pretty tough. They can score. Landry Hammondtree at Sikeston became the all-time leading scorer for girls basketball at Sikeston. So another tough player and a tough individual matchup for sure. And then, you mentioned Arcadia Valley, and also I've been talking about Delta. Delta's girls keep playing a kind of a gauntlet here at the end of the season. On Tuesday, they host St. Vincent. That'll be interesting. You maybe expect St. Vincent to win, but that'll be an interesting game, especially, they're having to come down here to Delta, which is not going to be an easy place to play. And then they're going to be playing at Arcadia Valley on Thursday, who's a solid team as well, Cody.
Yes. Should be a gauntlet of a schedule for them to finish. Yeah. Set them up nicely for districts. I believe they're easily the 1 seed. I think Oak Ridge may be the 2 seed in that district. Just 4 teams in Delta's district, but should come out of that. Maybe that's what the coach is preparing them for.
Yeah, and then I guess we can flip over to the boys' side for this week. No Cape Jackson area games Monday. Some small school games to maybe keep an eye on. Charleston will be hosting Leopold. They should. I'd expect Charleston, the way they're playing, to win that one handily. Bernie is supposed to be hosting Delta, so that could be an interesting game. Then Tuesday, Cody, what do we have? It's a pretty busy day, I know.
Yeah, especially in the SEMO conference, but Jackson's going to host Seckman for probably the 1 seed in that district. You have Cardinal Ritter in the district, but with them being below 500 this year, the Jackson-Seckman game, I know they've both played Ladue recently. Seckman handled Ladue at their place.
Surprising.
Pretty easily, double-digit victory. So, but this one being at Jackson, maybe with their hands full. Definitely a game you want to come out and see. Jackson's last home game this year. So if you're wanting to see them at home, probably a game you want to come see.
Yeah, like you said, last home game of the season, especially if you are a Jackson fan or if you want to see good basketball. You said, I guess we'll have to preface it with saying we'll see if the game happens. As of now, we're looking at potentially a lot of snow Tuesday into Wednesday. I don't know how that's going to shake out. So we're going to talk about all these games this week, but none of them might happen. There might be no games in Southeast Missouri this week. We'll see, but we will talk about them. But yeah, that is a good game, potentially between Jackson and Seckman. Jackson beat Seckman twice last year, went to Seckman and beat them pretty handily. Then they rematched in the district first round, I think, so I guess the district quarterfinals, you can say. And it was a very close game. Seckman had a shot at the buzzer to win and missed, thankfully. And Jackson came away with the 54-52 win. But yeah, this is a team, according to Misha's records, goes back to 2013 between Jackson and Seckman. And Jackson has never lost to Seckman, but this Seckman team is good this year and will potentially give the Indians a game. And then other notable games, a few notable ones for sure. Notre Dame Farmington. I don't know. What do you expect that game to go like at Notre Dame on Tuesday?
Yeah, very tough game. Farmington, a very good team this year. We saw them play Jackson close. Obviously, Farmington beat Sikeston this year. Farmington setting themselves up to probably be the 1 seed in the Cape Central Sikeston district. So will be a very tough game for Notre Dame. But again, want to see good basketball? Should be a good game.
Yeah, Farmington's fun to watch. They play quick. They like to get up and down. They have good size. They have really good shooting. So that'll be a fun game. And like I said, they match up well with Notre Dame. I think, like you said, I think Farmington should be favored to win. But yeah, playing at Notre Dame be tough. Smaller environment, going to be loud. I know their fans are going to show out. So that'd be an exciting one to keep an eye on. Saxony will host Scott City. I have to assume that's going to go Scott City's way. The Rams are playing really well right now. They're getting up and down. They're scoring a lot. You know, Kobe Watson, those guys are playing really, really well. He's been balling out lately. Yeah, Scott City has been playing very well. They beat East Prairie in their conference tournament, the Scott Miss tournament. So they're playing good basketball. And, you know, every time we talk about Scott City or Woodland, you just talk about the excitement seeing those teams probably play each other for their district championship game. And then I get kind of maybe the most interesting or potential closest, like what's kind of a question mark for me, Cape versus Charleston. So this will be at Cape on Tuesday. It'll be interesting. Charleston has been playing well. You know, we talked about they beat Woodland pretty handily. They took Jackson to overtime. This could be a tough game for the Tigers, Cody.
For sure. I mean, you talk about without Edwards, you know how close Jackson and Cape are this year. Very similar teams. And then for Charleston and Jackson to go to overtime last week, you presume that Charleston Cape game would be pretty close, be an up and down pace, some great guard play in those games. So be interesting to see. Obviously, we talk about these CMO conference games, kind of depends on how it's officiated. But yeah, should be an interesting game to watch for sure on Tuesday.
And, you know, might be kind of jumping ahead here. It has, you know, implications for the CMO conference regular season championship, however much stock you put into that. Sikeston is currently by themselves undefeated at the top. Cape and Jackson each have 1 loss, but Cape has a tiebreaker beating Jackson. But, you know, if Cape Central, you could see a weird potential ending here to the CMO Conference regular season because Jackson plays at Sikeston. I expect Sikeston to be favored, you know, the favorite there. I expect them to win. But, you know, things get weird. Charleston beats Cape. You could be playing again. You could have another regular season championship night between Jackson at Sikeston on Friday.
Yep.
And, you know, outside of that, there's going to be a lot of good. There's going to be some interesting small school games Tuesday. Puxico Woodland, those teams played each other already, and Puxico shot the lights out and blew out Woodland. I wasn't surprised, I guess, that Puxico won, but I was very surprised at how the game went. So that'll definitely be one to watch on Tuesday. I know Risco they host Hayti, Chaffee hosts Delta, Richland hosts Bernie. Wednesday, Thursday, you know, no real CMO conference or Cape area games going on. Battle of the Boot Heel, Hayti, Crothersville will be going on. So some good small school games. But then, yeah, Friday we mentioned some good games. Saxony will be hosting Kennett. Could be a tough matchup. Once again, Kennett has a kid named Dyson Watson who's a very good scorer. They have good shooters around him. That'll be a tough game for Saxony. You know, I expect Kennett to be the better team there. Cape will be hosting Gateway Legacy, which I don't know a lot about Gateway. They came to Sikeston. They lost to Sikeston by about 20. They just tried to slow Sikeston down, similar to Cape. So that could be a competitive matchup, I think. I don't really know what to expect. Like you said, it's kind of a wild card, how they're going to come out. I know Coach Frazier kind of challenged his team after the Sikeston games, saying he doesn't have guys that are all the way bought in. If things don't go their way, they kind of shut down. So we'll see which direction that goes, whether they respond positively or negatively to it. They have a big week to potentially respond positively. And then, like I mentioned earlier, kind of the big game on Friday night, you can say, is Jackson at Sikeston for some potential CMO conference implications. And also just, you know, these two teams have been playing really, really well. What do you expect going into that ball game, Cody?
Yeah, it could be kind of a toss-up. I think a lot of people would favor Sikeston in this one just based on how they've played this season. But when you look at common opponents, I think we all kind of thought that the Farmington beating up on Sikeston was a shock to me, for one. And then Jackson, of course, beat Farmington. Can't put a lot of stock in that based on when they played and stuff, but I expect the environment to be rocking, and it could be, like you said, for the regular season conference. If the game's even played, of course, we talked about that. If this game is unable to be played this week, don't know that they would be able to get it in before Sikeston and Jackson start district. So have to keep our eye on the weather, of course, also.
Yeah, last year those two teams played at Jackson. I think that was an earlier tip game as well, and that was a great game, back and forth. Sikeston won 71-68 last season. The only time they played last year. And it's been traditionally Sikeston, the better team between those two when they face off. I have it pulled up on Misha's website. Out of their last, has 19 games. Jackson is 6-13 against Sikeston. They won 2 games against them 2 seasons ago. Jackson beat them twice. Yeah, it'll be a competitive matchup, I hope. I'm rooting for it to be a good game. Sikeston, you could say, hasn't played any good games recently. They've just been blowing everybody out in the SEMO conference. So, I'm hoping it's a good game. Cody and I can kind of be Jackson homers at times because we do call all the games for Jackson as well on the radio. But I'm just rooting for it to be competitive, at least. I don't want it to be a blowout. Sikeston will be tough. Jackson has to handle the ball against them, facing pressure probably up and down the court that game. I expect Sikeston to really try to come after them. Because Jackson has shown it's been up and down, I would say. Like the ability to handle the pressure, handle the ball. Some games they play really well. Some games they, only turn it over 5, 6, 7 times. Other times they might turn it over about 5, 6, 7 possessions in a row. So the game is going to 100% hinge on how I think Jackson handles the Sikeston pressure. And then, outside of that, not much going on Friday. Interesting game. Puxico's going up to Potosi kind of before the end of the season. That'll be interesting. Just kind of keep an eye on. And then there is a Saturday game here in Cape Girardeau. Notre Dame will host St. Francis Borgia, who is a solid team. Obviously, they are usually a team that is very, very good. Private school, kind of West St. Louis, and St. Francis Borgia already has a win over Sikeston this year up at Union. So could be a tough test, I think, for Notre Dame for sure. It has Borgia at 16-6 coming into the game. They've been playing pretty well as of late. They won that Union tournament. They dropped a close one to Montgomery County, who's one of the best teams in the state. But overall, Borgia will be a tough test for Notre Dame. But you never know; anything could happen. Saturday games are kind of weird for kids, kind of out of your routine. So be interested. I'll definitely keep an eye on it. Might be in the building, seeing that game. It'd be fun. It'd be an exciting game. Notre Dame has been playing well as of late, so hopefully they can come away with maybe a little bit of an upset victory there over Borgia.
Yeah, like we said, all weather dependent. Hopefully we can get these last 2 weeks worth of games in, decide the conference regular season champions, and then get ready for district play.
Yep, and districts are coming up. They've already, like we mentioned early, they've seeded most of the districts, I think, in class 1, 2, and 3. I guess the team we talk about the most, or the team I try to talk about, being here in Cape County, is Saxony. They're going to have an uphill battle because they're in that class 3, district 2 with, I think the 1 seed is Woodland, the 2 seed is Scott City. Those two teams kind of feel like they're on a collision course, and that'll be played over at Greenville. I think that's where Saxony's playing first. They're playing
Greenville. That, if you look ahead, the 28th is kind of the small school district championship night. So if you're trying to get out to, we mentioned Charleston as another one, class 2, those district championships, February 28th.
Yeah, so February 28th, yeah, like you said, they're all kind of happening on the same night. So it might be tough to keep track of all of them going on. That'll definitely, yeah, as far as, like, if we're looking ahead a little bit, the class 2 district 3 has had a lot of people talking, potential Puxico Charleston matchup. Charleston dropping down to class 2 this year. They have been in 3. We'll see how that goes. Puxico kind of having a dream season right now. They're kind of a team of destiny vibes, so they've been playing great. So we'll see how that potentially goes. It'll be a good matchup that will be played over at Bloomfield. So be a good gym, good sized gym, good environment usually over at Bloomfield. I'm sure it'll be packed out. Puxico fans travel really well too, so that is one to definitely watch. And we've talked about many times, Class 3, District 2. Like I said, Saxony it's already seeded. Saxony's a 5 seed. They'll be playing Greenville. It'll be at Greenville on the 24th at 6 p.m. And the winner of that will be playing Woodland. So tough road if you are in that district and your name's not Woodland or Scott City, but should be interesting. Definitely something to watch over there. And then outside of that, just about does it for me. The Class 4, 5, 6, so we talk about probably the most. Not seeded yet. I don't know when. I think the seed meetings will probably be happening this week.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely be getting some clarification on, Class 4, District 1, Class 5, District 1, Class 6, District 1, where, Notre Dame, Cape, Jackson are playing. But yeah, Cody, you got anything else you want to talk about, hit on before?
That's pretty much it.
Get out of here. What else do I have? Anything in the show? Shout out Bryson Wessel. We've talked about him a few times. Having a good year wrestling. But over on the football field, which is where Cody and I have seen him, he plays left tackle for the Indians. He picked up his first offer from Lindenwood. So, rest to him. Pick up an offer. His kind of recruiting has picked up lately. There's been a few teams over to Jackson kind of talking to him and some of the other players. So, definitely something to keep an eye on. And basketball season's rolling into the end of the year here, Cody. So, before too long, we will also be talking about football soon here, getting ready for next season. But for at least a few more weeks, maybe about a month, hopefully a little bit longer, some of these teams will put together a little bit of a run here. Cody and I will be sticking over on the hardwood primarily. So if that just about does it for you, that pretty much does it for me here over at Exit 99 Sports. As always, Cody and I will be on the radio, 104.7 The Bridge, calling all the Jackson games. For Notre Dame games, I know they stream home games, and Rusty Hendricks will be doing games for them. Ryan Winkler will be handling the Cape games. He streams them on this channel's Cape Central Sports on YouTube. We're also on radio at 95.7 Cape Radio. So we're almost to the end here. If you're listening to this and there's no basketball, just forget everything I said this week. But if basketball is happening, there's a lot of good games. We're at the end of the year. Get out, go see some of these teams play a home game before season's over with. Because, a team like Jackson, depending on how things shake out, they'd have to win their district before they get another home game. So this game against Seckman could be the last time you get to see them this season. So I would definitely implore you to get out, watch some good basketball, close out this regular season. But for myself and Cody, thank you guys all for watching. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.